if you could go back in time on a Wayback Machine and give yourself a bit of advice, what would it be today? Advice about what? Life? Life in general? Career? What advice on what? I would assume, you're welcome, bravo. I would assume you mean about audio and stuff. Here's something I would tell you. Go back, and again, I'll just say it, but if you want some inspiration advice, go back and listen to my podcast on Home Recording Made Easy YouTube channel from, what are we in, 23? From, I think it was 21, 2 years ago. When I first got into the analog and I first bought the console, I did a podcast episode talking about, it was 21. It was right after COVID. COVID happened in 20, it was 21. And I said, because we talk about all this stuff, we talk about gear, we talk about plugins, this is all fun, we're having fun. And a lot of people, once I went from the box, not that I left the box, right? We were talking, I still work in the box. We've been talking about that. When I added the analog workflow to my business model and, along with the box, a lot of people, said, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And we talked about that. And then other people since that time has seen the channel grow, and a lot of you guys who've never used any hardware, any analog, starting to get in the hardware. Some of you guys have run out and bought consoles. A lot of guys and gals just, procrastinate and they, this, that, and the other thing. And I have a lot of private students that I teach, Zoom. Again, I have coaching services, all that stuff. And I teach lots of private students. And one of the things that comes up a lot, whether it's about making a quantum leap or an investment in their studio, whether it be there's someone who works a regular job like most of you do, like I did for my whole career, and then wanted to do music full time and all of that stuff. And that's, making that kind of a life shift and change. And the one piece of advice that I wish I would have took earlier, but I got around to it sooner than later, but I wish I did this as a younger guy, was if there's something in life, and this was after COVID really hit home with me, and it made me really start to think about something that you've heard said a billion times by people, a cliche. If there's something that you really want to do, man, in your life, in your career, in your music, in your business, or start a business, or buy a console, or whatever you want to do, there's no better time to do it than now, because if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? Right? And again, this was huge, right during and after COVID. I can't tell you, during the COVID pandemic, everybody was home, right? The whole world was shut down. Nobody was working for a long time, unless you were one of those essential critical workers that needed to go to work. I can't tell you, I was overloaded with coaching sessions because people were home. So they wanted to do coaching in the studio. And I can't tell you how many of those calls were, oh my God, I just lost my job due to this pandemic. My small company shut down that I was working for. Or, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be going back to work. I've been wanting to do music full time forever. I've been toying around with this thing forever. And they, in a panic, I need to now replace whatever I was making at my full-time job now that I'm not working anymore because of COVID, and nobody knew at that time, right? We didn't know if we were going to be locked up for years. We had no idea. It was never experienced anything like that, right? And they wanted to turn on a dime what their regular job to a full-time in music. And Dave, how do you do what you do? And how did you do this? And teach me what you do. Teach me how you do this. And I can't tell you how many of those calls I had. And unfortunately, I had to be honest with people like I am with all of you and say, man, you just don't go like this. And all of a sudden you're making a full-time living in the music business. That doesn't happen. That happens to 1 in a million. This is a thing that's taken me 15 years to build. And only in the last maybe 7 have I done it full-time, maybe 8, right? I built it 10 years. I did it as a part-time gig. So my advice was, if you're thinking about it, or you're thinking about getting something, or there's a lot of people there, I'm ready to pull the trigger on this. I'm ready to pull the trigger on that. And everyone's got different circumstances. I get it, especially when it comes to money. But I just tell people, stop putting it off. Stop putting it off, especially a lot of people that follow us here. Not all of you, but a lot of you are in your 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, age-wise. If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? That's why I bought a console. I was telling that story I told you, well, some of you know, I was toying over this idea for 2-3 years before I pulled the trigger. 3 years. I procrastinated. Oh, it's too much money. And what if nobody hires me? And oh my God, I'm going to start another YouTube channel. What if nobody likes it? And what if nobody gives a shit? Did I buy all this stuff and waste all this money? I kept telling myself for 3 years, 100,000 reasons why it wasn't going to work out. Right. And then finally, COVID woke me up and I said, you know what? If I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? And that's the advice I have. If you want to do something in this business or in your music or in your studio or in your career, if you want to work, there's a million ways to make money in the music business, a million ways to make a living. How hard are you willing to work? How disciplined are you? And are you all talk and no action, or are you all action and no talk? And it's that simple. And that would be the advice I would give to people. Just do it. Like, what's that? Nike? They say that? Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Don't go into bankruptcy doing it. Don't get divorced. Don't go out buy a console and get divorced. I'm just saying, if you want to do something, do it. And I, as scary as all this was, I could not be happier that I went out and did all of this. I've learned a ton. I met a lot of great people online because of it. I've gotten a lot of work because of it. It helped expand my business because of it. And every single person, with the exception of David S.J., who he was actually one of these people, and then he actually came around pretty quick. But every single person, when I told them I was thinking about buying a console, buying analog, told me I was crazy, told me it was going to fail. I got so much hate on this YouTube channel, as I told you earlier about it. No one's going to hire you. Nobody's going to hire an analog mixing engineer. This will never work. This is dinosaur technology. Andrew Sheps this, Michael Brower that. You don't know what you're doing. You've lost your minds. Every single person. And this thing is not only paid for itself in the first 2 years, but has grown my business probably by the end of this year, 25% in 2 years. I've gotten more business from this stuff than I ever did mixing in the box. So for every person told me no one would ever hire me, I'm busier now than I've ever been. And if I listened to all those people, I wouldn't have expanded my business. Those are the same people, and I'm on a rant here because you asked, those are the same people that told me when I started homerecordingmadeeasy.com in 2014, told me I was out of my mind. There was no possible way you can make a living making training videos in your home studio. No possible way. Everybody, every one of my family members, with the exception of my wife, all my relatives, my siblings, friends, work colleagues at the time, everyone told me I needed to grow up and I didn't know what I was doing. And in less than 5 years, I turned something that started at absolutely nothing into a 6-figure income year over year over year. With no help. I'm the only, help, my buddy Dave helped me, but I mean, home recording made easy, no help, no team of people, no assistants, no social media marketing people, nobody. Did all myself. If I would have listened to every one of those people that told me I was crazy, I'd be still working some corporate job that I hated, working 65 hours a week, and probably would be dead of a stress heart attack by this point in my life. So, my advice is, don't let anyone tell you that it can't be done. My advice is, if everybody tells you you're crazy, that means you're probably onto something. And my advice is, the only reason why people tell you that you're crazy and that you're going to fail is because they failed themselves and they couldn't get it done. And misery likes misery. Just like when someone mentioned a little earlier about the comments, right? Negative people like to be around other negative people, and negative people like to see you fail because they can't succeed. So they want you to fail along with them because it makes them feel good about themselves. Don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those people. So that's my free business and life coaching advice for the evening, fellas. Does that answer your question? Or you're probably like, I didn't even want to know half of what you just said. But that's my advice. Do it. I wish I would have done this 15 years earlier. But better late than never.